Chapter 1. Apollo 20 Artifact. Detective Tracer Investigates. The air in the Tesseract didn't just smell like stale coffee and ozone. It smelled like the fractured geometry of a reality that hadn't given up on making sense. Sam Tracer adjusted his beige fedora, the felt brim slightly damp from a humidity that shouldn't exist in a pocket dimension. He caught his reflection in the shimmering surface of a floating data shard. At 42, Sam looked like a man who had been folded too many times and never quite pressed flat. The sleeveless camouflage fleece, a DIY hack that gave his biceps room to breathe, clashed violently with the smart V-neck underneath. But Sam wasn't dressing for a gala. He was dressing for a world where the monsters didn't just hide under the bed, they lived in the frequencies between the radio stations. Beside him, Biff, a protocol droid whose human synthetic skin looked like it had been applied by a blind mortician in a hurry, straightened his own matching fedora.
The resonance signatures from the A20 recovery site are problematic, Sam.
Biff said, his voice a melodic chime filtered through a cheap vocal modulator.
Problematic is my middle name, Biff. Actually, it's Aloysius, but I tell people
It's problematic. Sam reached for a cigarette, remembered he'd quit 3 dimensions ago, and settled for chewing on a toothpick.
Talk to me. Tell me why the Watchers are sweating through their silk robes over a piece of lunar scrap.
Biff gestured to the center of the office, where the Tesseract's walls pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent gold. A holographic projection of a salvaged component materialized, a jagged, iridescent strut that seemed to rotate in 4 directions at once. This isn't just hardware, Sam muttered, leaning in until a holographic glow turned his eyes into twin nebulae. It's a tuning fork for a sentient waveform.
If you hit this with the right frequency, you don't just go to the moon. You go to the idea of the moon.
Sam felt the familiar itch in his left hand, the one that had touched a ghost in 1922 and never quite felt warm again. He was a lone wolf in a pack of celestial sheep, working for a circle that gave him the tools to see the truth but never the permission to speak it. He was Sam Tracer. He found things that didn't want to be found for people who pretended they didn't exist.
Biff,
Sam said, his voice dropping to a gravelly rasp.
load the speculative engineering suite. We're going to reverse engineer the soul of this machine.
And if the Watchers don't like what we find,
They can try to evict me from a room that doesn't have an address.
the droid's optical sensors flickered. That would be statistically ill-advised, Sam. Yeah, well, statistics never had to kick a sentient shadow in the teeth. The fragrant wisp of cannabis smoke curled around Sam Tracer's beige fedora, a temporary anchor in the shifting realities of his Tesseract office. He leaned back into the plush, borrowed BOIV seat, a relic from some bygone era, perfectly suited for deep contemplation. The seat itself was an island in the sea of anachronistic tech. His immediate surroundings were a meticulously crafted 1950s detective's office. Rich wood paneling, a heavy oak desk, and a muted Persian rug. It was a comfortable lie, a mental sanctuary. Beyond the quaint wooden door, the illusion dissolved into the vast humming expanse of the Tesseract. Here, a borrowed zero-point energy generator thrummed, feeding power to a dazzling array of laboratory equipment, quantum computers, and holographic displays that lined the bay areas. Each screen pulsed with data, all linked to the colossal main system that was Sam's true partner in crime solving. He took a slow drag from his pipe, the herbal scent mingling with the ever-present ozone. Sal and antimony, the names floated like dust motes in his mind. The 2 Watcher couriers who had delivered the Apollo 20 artifact to him barely an hour ago. They had looked like they had just crawled out of a crypt, their faces ashened, eyes wide and haunted. Their fragmented tale of a sovereign-class vessel on the far side of the moon still echoed in his thoughts, a chilling counterpoint to the chirping birds he now observed. Sam glanced at the monitor, disguised as his office window. Outside, through the virtual pane, dawn was just bleeding its first tentative colours into the sky. The digital street outside was slowly coming to life, rendered with uncanny realism, complete with chirping birds and the distant hum of traffic. He saw Biff, standing rigidly by a virtual lamppost, his synthetic skin looking particularly dull in the nascent light. The droid probably needed an oil change, and Sam knew just the place. Your THC oil bath
In the laboratory, Biff. 4
blocks inside the Tesseract is calling your name, Sam murmured, exhaling a plume of smoke. Don't want you seizing up on me when the real fun starts. He watched Biff's virtual eyes glow a faint blue in acknowledgement before the droid's figure dissolved from the street view. Sam smiled faintly. Even in the dimension-bending office powered by forbidden physics, some routines remained reassuringly mundane. He savoured the taste of the herb, letting it untangle the knots in his mind, preparing him for the strange truths that lurked beneath the surface of reality. The Apollo artifact was no ordinary piece of space junk. Sal and Antimony's terror was his first clue, and Sam Tracer had a gut feeling this was going to be one for the history books, or at least the Watcher's highly classified archives. Sam set the pipe down and picked up the iridescent strut. It felt lighter than it should, as if the atoms were only half invested in being solid. He reached into his fleece pocket and pulled out
a brass-rimmed monocle.
A high-resolution spectral microscope that looked like a Victorian curiosity, but functioned like a CERN laboratory. Squinting through the lens, he felt the familiar Kuntz-esque chill crawl up his spine, the kind that suggests that the universe is much older and much more indifferent than we've been told. "Well, look at you," Sam whispered. Along the beveled edge of the metallic hydrogen lattice, a series of micro-etched glyphs shimmered into view. They weren't just carved, they were vibrating at a frequency that made the molecules' glass hum, interspersed with the symbols with mathematical strings that looked like wave functions for the soul.
Biff, belay that oil bath, buddy. Get over here and earn your silicon,
Sam called out. The protocol droid shimmered back into existence near the oak desk, his beige fedora slightly askew. He didn't look at the artifact first. Instead, he pointed a stiff, synthetic finger toward the monitors showing the simulated street.
Sam,
I must register a
formal complaint regarding the Astra's exterior maintenance, Biff chimed, his tone dropping with mechanical indignation.
The local avian population, the pigeons, specifically, have been utilizing our hull as a communal latrine since we ran out of the grade A green crystal plasma for the holographic projectors. Our hedge and shrubbery disguise is looking suspect. To be frank, the hedge currently has a 3-foot white streak down the middle that no biological flora should possess. If a botanist walks by, our cover is blown.
Sam waved a dismissive hand through a cloud of smoke.
If a botanist is looking that closely at a hedge in a parking lot at 5 a.m.
He's a spy, Biff. Now look at this. The side of the strut. Biff leaned in, his optical sensors whirring as they zoomed and refocused. The blue glow in his eyes intensified, pulsing in the sync with the vibrations of the artifact. For a long moment, the only sound in the tesseract was the low thrum of the zero-point generator.
This is not merely math, Sam,
Biff said, his voice dropping an octave in the reverent hum.
These are linguistic blueprints. According to the Watcher's deep archive cross-references, this represents the language, the original tongue of the ancients. It's a set of instructions for the Sovereign-class vessel.
Biff looked up, his synthetic face a mask of digital dread.
It isn't a ship log, Sam. It's a resurrection protocol. The vessel on the moon isn't dead. It's just waiting for someone to read the manual.